a little bit longer with the family because obviously I've got no fight news, and then I just thought I'd come back. I miss this place when I'm not here, so yeah, I'm excited to get back training again.
The arena was alive that night, yet strangely silent in the moments before it began. A silence heavy with anticipation, a breath held by thousands. Under the bright floodlights of the Etihad Arena, Dakota Ditcheva stood with the stillness of someone born for chaos. Across from her, Paula Bittencourt shifted her weight nervously, eyes locked on the Brit, who had already gained a reputation as something dangerous, something inevitable. The bell rang, and what followed wasn't just a fight. It was a dismantling. From the first exchange, Dakota's movement was sharp, almost surgical. Her footwork sliced through the space between them like a dancer on broken glass. Every strike carried intent. Every feint drew a reaction. Paula tried to close the distance to force a clinch, but Dakota's timing made every attempt look desperate. Then came the moment that froze the arena. A perfectly timed head kick that connected with brutal precision. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Paula collapsed, her body twisting as the crowd gasped. The referee rushed in, hands waving, but the damage was done. For a split second, the entire world of women's MMA seemed to stop. The knockout wasn't just a highlight. It was a message that a new predator had arrived. As cameras zoomed in, Dakota stood calm, emotionless, her breathing steady. The crowd erupted, the commentators barely keeping their composure. In that instant, the 23-year-old from Manchester had made the world take notice. This wasn't luck. It was legacy unfolding in real time. The calm after the storm revealed a different story. One of years buried beneath discipline, of a childhood steeped in the sounds of pads being hit and ropes snapping back in Muay Thai gyms across England. Dakota Ditcheva didn't stumble into fighting. She was born into it. Her mother, Lisa Howarth, a British Muay Thai legend, had already written part of the family story before Dakota could even walk. The young girl grew up surrounded by fighters, warriors, and the unspoken language of combat: respect, endurance, and relentless repetition. By the time she was 4, she was already kicking pads taller than her. By 10, she could read an opponent's rhythm like others read music. But it wasn't just skill that shaped her. It was culture. The northern fight scene was gritty, unforgiving. Every bout meant pride. Every bruise meant progress. By 19, she had already conquered Muay Thai, becoming both British and world champion. The medals meant little. The hunger remained. In the corners of her memory, she still heard her mother's voice, calm but firm, reminding her that true champions aren't crowned. They're carved from pressure, doubt, and failure. It was that same voice that whispered to her years later, when she stood at the edge of a new chapter. Mixed martial arts. Transitioning from Muay Thai to MMA was like learning to breathe underwater. The rhythm changed. The terrain shifted. Dakota knew she was leaving comfort behind. Grappling, wrestling, ground control. It wasn't the striking art she mastered since childhood, but she approached it the same way she had approached every challenge, with obsession. At Manchester Top Team, she became a fixture in the gym, absorbing lessons from every corner. There were long nights on the mats, days spent drilling transitions until her body moved before thought. Her coaches described her as a quick study, someone who didn't just learn technique, but the psychology of the sport. While many strikers struggled to adjust, Dakota found beauty in the grind. She treated wrestling scrambles the way she once treated pad work, as rhythm and flow. Her amateur debut came after years of silent preparation. 4 wins, no losses. Then came the moment to go professional. In 2021, she entered the cage not as a newcomer, but as a storm waiting to break. Her rise was quiet but unstoppable. Every opponent she faced walked out confident and left broken. Yet, despite the growing hype, Dakota stayed detached, grounded. Fame didn't interest her, evolution did. The cage wasn't a stage for applause, it was a mirror for truth. The night she faced Paula Bittencourt at UAE Warriors 28 wasn't supposed to be historic. It was another test, another step. But destiny has a way of revealing itself when least expected. Paula, the Brazilian veteran, had a reputation for grit and toughness. She had survived wars in the cage, dragged fights into deep water, and worn opponents down. But that night, the fight played out like a cruel mismatch of levels. Dakota opened with measured jabs, testing distance, reading reactions. Paula lunged forward, tried to close the gap, but every movement was countered. A low kick cracked against Paula's leg, then another. Her rhythm broke. The Brit circled, patient, predatory. Paula tried to clinch, hoping to force a takedown, but Dakota shrugged her off. The commentary spoke of her composure, the rare calm of someone who never doubted the outcome. When the fight hit the ground, for a moment, it seemed Paula might have a chance. But Dakota's balance, her transitions, her control, it was all far beyond her experience level. She reversed, mounted, and rained down calculated strikes. It was dominance without arrogance. When the final bell rang, Paula's face told the story. Swollen, broken, but brave. The decision was unanimous, but the knockout earlier would be the image burned into every viewer's memory. The world didn't see a promising newcomer that night. They saw inevitability. In the weeks that followed, headlines called it the head kick heard around the world. Analysts broke down the fight frame by frame, trying to understand how someone so new to MMA could look so complete. For Dakota, it wasn't magic. It was math. Years of repetition, instinct layered over technique. In interviews, she was calm, soft-spoken, almost detached from the chaos surrounding her. "I'm just doing what I've always done," she said. But there was something deeper behind those words. The quiet confidence of someone who knew she hadn't even shown her full potential yet. Back home in Manchester, the gym was already filled with new faces inspired by her rise. Little girls kicked pads with her posters on the wall. Mothers watched their daughters and whispered her name with pride. She had become something bigger than herself, a symbol. Yet she never chased the spotlight. She trained, traveled, and spoke rarely. Her focus was on the craft. Even her teammates noticed it, a kind of tunnel vision. Erin Abbey, one of her closest training partners, once said, "She doesn't talk about fame or money. She talks about getting better." That's it. It was that mentality that separated her from the rest. While others sought validation, Dakota sought mastery. The question on everyone's mind soon became impossible to ignore. Was it time for the UFC? With her record flawless and her dominance unquestioned, fans demanded it. Promoters hinted at it. Journalists wrote it like prophecy. But Dakota remained patient. She understood the cost of rushing greatness. "I'm still learning," she said in one interview. "I don't want to tie myself up too soon." It wasn't hesitation. It was intelligence. She had seen what happened to prospects who entered the big leagues too early. The weight of expectation crushing potential before it could mature. So she chose patience, knowing that time was her ally. Each fight outside the UFC wasn't a delay. It was a foundation. She collected experience, adapted to new styles, studied every possibility. The dream was never just to join the UFC. It was to conquer it. When she finally steps into that octagon, she doesn't want to survive. She wants to own it. For now, she fights across Dubai, Canada, and Europe, carrying with her not just her own ambition, but the legacy of those who came before her. Every strike she throws is a continuation of a lineage that began decades ago in a small British gym. As the documentary closes, the story of Dakota Ditcheva feels less like a biography and more like prophecy. A fighter forged from tradition, sharpened by discipline, and unleashed with precision. The head kick that shook Paula Bittencourt was not the end of a story. It was the prologue of something much larger. There's a rare quality that separates great athletes from legends. It's not just talent, it's vision. Dakota sees the fight game not as violence, but as expression. A way to speak a language only the brave understand. When she trains, it's not just for the next fight. It's for the moment when her name echoes among those who redefined what it means to be elite. For every young girl watching her highlight reel, for every fighter struggling in silence, her journey stands as proof that greatness isn't given. It's earned in sweat, in solitude, and in the willingness to step back into the fire again and again. The future of women's MMA isn't approaching. It's already here. And her name is Dakota Ditcheva.